voted on in this evening's first panel. It was suggested that given how each of the crime plans by the respective candidates take so seriously this issue of crime and violence that's staring at the city, and given the confidence that each of the candidates has in their respective plans, that each candidate ought to take a pledge that if elected, he will not seek re-election if the murder rate in the city is not reduced to its 2002 level. That would be about a 40% reduction over last year. Will not seek re-election if the murder rate isn't reduced by at least 40% when re-election time comes. Good. Final question.
I do think, one, that there should be a question of accountability. I don't disagree with the element that, one, I know operatively I'm prepared to be accountable if I'm not able to reverse the trend. The way I look at this particular situation is, the last 3 years I just described to you from 330 to 344, 6. And I described to you the number of 31%. But the greatest challenge in this, John, is really not just getting the government, but getting the people of the city. Because this is not just a government problem, this is a people's problem. And we need not to try to continue to separate this as talk about government and putting people over there. Because I don't care who's mayor. If this mayor is not able to mobilize all elements of the community, this university, faith-based organizations are all to believe that we can reverse the trend of violence, we are all in trouble. Unfortunately, this problem is viewed, in my view, as poor people and people of color. And it has yet to resonate to the point where folks are really understanding that city government by itself cannot solve this problem. What I've said over and over again, I've talked about the element of an effective police force. I've talked about the element of the criminal justice system. I've talked about the element of good quality schools and education. But most important, what I've also talked about is parents and community talking about the difference of what is right and wrong. And I think that that's what we have not been recognized. You know, this is not new for me. I mean, I've talked about this for almost 20 years. I've talked about this over and over again of how challenging this issue is. Now, unfortunately, now that we see that, you know, this is raised in the polls at 406 murders in 2000, now all of a sudden, others are now running up saying, you know, I got a solution to this. What I keep trying to say is this requires a different type of leadership. It really does. I mean, it really requires a different kind of leadership. Somebody's going to think outside the box. Somebody who says that no idea is a bad idea. Every idea we're going to evaluate, we're going to look at it, we're going to try to do all the things we can. And you know, I just say this in closing, because I've studied, you know, I keep talking about New York, and here, 8 million people, 600 homicides. 1.4 million people, 400 homicides. Don't look at just 1 year, look at the trend. My observation of that city, 100 miles from here, is it really gets back to, do we all believe, not just the mayor, faith-based community, religious leaders, St. Joe, LaSalle, Penn, wherever it may be, do we really believe that we'll take ownership of the election? So this election, in the next 90 days, is really going to be a fundamental question as we look and we think about, can that person who we put in office have the ability to bring people together, to get them focused, to be disciplined in terms of trying to reverse this trend? Thank you. So we've asked the question about 4 years from now. I would say to you, you know, I don't know how you came up with that number, 40%, but
2002, that's 2002.
Then, from my perspective, it would be yes.
Okay.
I would be very specific. It would be yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilman Nutter.